Good evening from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. This is The Kelly Wright Show. We are delighted to have you join us for the next hour as we seek to inform, entertain, and inspire you each and every day. Coming up on today's show, a man from Nashville will talk to us about his life in the aftermath of the recent deadly tornado that devastated his community. Also, how are Black millennials changing the world? We'll talk to one who has his finger on the pulse of our young, gifted, and Black millennials. And later, American Idol contestant and now R&B singer Such, who is a rising star, will join us. Those stories and more and your headlines in just a moment. But first, my opening observations. This is not a test. This is not a drill. Coronavirus, my friends, is real. It is an epidemic. And as New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has stated, it is also a pandemic due to fear. The numbers do not lie. Thousands are being told to work from home. More than 300,000 school children worldwide are staying at home because schools are closed. This is happening around the world and even here in the United States, where the governors of Washington and California have declared states of emergency. This dangerous and now increasingly lethal virus is wreaking havoc on productivity and profitability for giant corporations, causing Wall Street to witness volatility on the stock market. Air travel is down. Even domestic flights are limited now because no one wants to fly. The president and world leaders are working to contain it. It has nothing to do with the southern border or international boundaries. The coronavirus seems to be no respecter of countries. And the reality of it is even causing social media apps like Tinder to issue warnings on how to protect yourself, including a link to health tips from the World Health Organization. Now, some may say that's fear-mongering, but others are grateful to get substantive information on social media. And here's the bottom line. We do not know how long the coronavirus will last until a vaccine can be found. However, as two good friends of mine have explained on this show, we should not shrink in fear and racism towards Asians because the disease does not discriminate. It is opportunistic in making people sick, regardless of their color. However, we as a people need to be more proactive in helping each other combat this deadly virus. Let's not lose our perspective on this. This is a call for the entire world to come together beyond race, color, and creed to fight this virus. We have faced these kinds of life-threatening pandemics before in our history, from the bubonic plague and smallpox to Ebola. Yet perhaps this coronavirus, which threatens to take our life, will make us more resilient. It may give us the opportunity to fight this outbreak and come together as one humanity. And those are my opening observations. And now, here are your headlines. Facebook is trying to help combat coronavirus. They're offering as many free ads as needed to help the World Health Organization respond to the virus. Coronavirus has now spread to more than 60 countries. After spending $500 million and only winning American Samoa, former Mayor Mike Bloomberg called it quits. Joe Lobby has the report for us from New York.
This may very well have been Mike Bloomberg's most expensive political experiment to date, and yet it just didn't pay off. American Samoa and a handful of delegates, all he has to show for his huge spend leading into Super Tuesday. He leaves this campaign having spent $500 million on political ads in a pretty short space of time, certainly drawing the most attention on air, but really that did not resonate at all with voters. What is interesting now, though, is where his support and potentially his finances are going to flow. He's declared for Joe Biden, and now all eyes will be on that campaign to see if it receives a significant financial boost. No doubt the former vice president will have a spring in his step following his results on Super Tuesday, and really the Democratic field is coming down to two. It's him versus the left-wing senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, and it's fair to say that Wall Street is getting behind the former VP as well. We've seen what some pundits are calling a Biden bounce in the share market here. The Dow Jones, the Nasdaq and S&P 500 all having pretty stellar performances following a week of drops on the back of the coronavirus. And we do know that Bernie Sanders has few friends down in Wall Street, so no doubt the financiers have picked their candidate heading into the race for the White House. I'm Joel Arby, reporting for The Kelly Wright Show.
Thank you, Joe. And now we want to take a moment to remember Crispus Attucks. He was the first person killed in the Boston Massacre on this day in 1770. Attucks is a symbol of the fight for American independence and for African Americans' struggle for freedom and equality. We'll have much more for you after the break. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. What should we do to prepare and keep ourselves safe from coronavirus? Dr. Corder is here now with some tips on how we can best do that. Doctor, thank you for joining us this morning. I know you're very busy in between rounds. We appreciate you coming on the show to let us know how we can deal with the coronavirus. How does it literally spread? That's the question I'd first like to know. Is it a cough? Is it a cold? Is it a sneeze? Is it an allergy? Is it flu-like symptoms? And so many people, they really don't know.
Yeah, this has been a evolving problem. We first thought that was related to foods and eating. This has now evolved into a respiratory problem. So we believe the major transmission is actually respiratory, coughing, sneezing, contacts.
So in that regard, what should people do to safeguard and protect themselves, not fully understanding what could happen if it is in fact coronavirus?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a lot of people going out buying masks and things, and that's not really your best thing to do. First, washing your hands is very important because this is a contact where you can get in contact with the virus and touch your face. So washing your hands, keeping your hands out of your face, away from your eyes, your mouth, these things are important. Other thing is keeping social distance. We now say stay at least 3 feet away from people. In addition to that, making sure you're doing good respiratory care. That is, if you cough and sneeze, put your arm up, cough in your sleeve, or use a tissue, dispose of the tissue right away. Then if you have symptoms, contact your doctor. Now, the symptoms are really very nonspecific.
And well, that's the troubling part because the symptoms are very nonspecific. So someone could go to the hospital, i.e. for pneumonia or the flu, and then find themselves under the investigation aspects of medicine to determine if in fact they have coronavirus. So given that fact, people are still kind of up in the air in terms of what they should do.
Yes, they are. But we're looking at symptoms of one, cough and fever, not the usual sniffles. We have a lot of allergy symptoms coming out right now, but most of our allergy symptoms are not running with fevers. So if you get in this cough, this fever, and particularly respiratory problems with shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, which means if you already have conditions, you should be careful.
All right, so upper respiratory illnesses and breathing and allergies, Doc, you know, a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, do I have coronavirus? And they may just have a normal allergy. But let me ask you a question. Where do we stand on this front in terms of combating it? Are we dealing with or looking at a potential deadly pandemic?
Well, both the CDC and the World Health Organization are working together to prevent something like that from happening. We do see that it's spreading, over 80,000 cases, over 3,200 deaths worldwide. But this is not one of those things that it's everywhere. If we're doing our protective things, if we're controlling it, early testing, the test systems are improving, and we're getting better quality of testing. So that's going to make a big difference in sort of containing it.
And based on that, are you hearing any suggestion at all as to what time we may have a vaccine available to administer to the public to bring this coronavirus into check?
Unfortunately, vaccines really take years to develop. So our big hope right now is probably not going to be a vaccine. It's going to be more public health, personal health, containment, and we're hoping that as the seasons change, those things can kind of help with that.
Now, Dr. Corder, you are a pediatrician, and you've been on this show to talk about the health as it relates to helping our children grow up healthy. This disease, coronavirus, as we know so far, is only affecting, it would seem, older people beyond the age of 50. Am I mistaken in that? Or can coronavirus, in fact, cause some trouble for our young children as well?
Our young children who have no other medical problems are probably okay. If they're going to get cold-like symptoms and things, but they could be carriers. And so traveling with young children, that can be a problem. We do have people who died in their 30s,
Okay.
or if you have some predisposed illness, particularly whether it's a asthma problem, diabetes, kidney problem, those things can sort of weaken your immune system. So watching out, making certain you do things to boost your immune system as much as possible, making certain that you're not getting in contact and protecting yourself.
Okay. Dr. Frederick Corder, thank you for joining us today and shedding some insights from a medical perspective on how we can best defend ourselves, safeguard ourselves against the coronavirus, and enlightening us in terms of educating us on how we should view this as a public health threat that it is indeed today. Dr. Frederick Corder, thanks for being on the Kelly Wright Show, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. And we'll be back with much more, I should say, right after this. More than 24 people lost their lives in Tennessee the other day after tornadoes touched down in the Nashville area. Josh Monday shot this video that you're looking at right after the tornado hit. It struck his business. Take a look at this.
Certain buildings weren't even touched, and then it just dropped, and it's just like it wiped out our building.
Josh Monday joins us now from Nashville. And Josh, I mean, the devastation that I saw in that building is remarkable, and the fact that people live through that. Well, first of all, it's a business, right?
Yeah, it's a business.
So it was unoccupied at the time of the tornado striking?
Yes, it was unoccupied at the time. There were 2 cars in the back, so we thought people were in there because we have a co-working space and one of the sides, and so we was thinking that somebody was in there working late at night because we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's it could be times where people are working in there late at night. So we were kind of concerned that that somebody was in there, but no one was in there. And when we saw the destruction, man, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was devastating and heartbreaking. I can certainly understand it. We hear it in the emotion of your voice and how you're expressing, 12 years I've worked on this and building this business. And then we heard your son. I think you were talking about your son asking you the question, what will you do now, Dad? Basically stating or indicating this has happened, how do you move on? How do you move on, Josh?
That's something I wrestle with every day. I mean, I can't say, the support of the community has helped so much. We're just trying to figure it out. Like, I still can't believe it. It's, 12 years of, building a business in that building, being integrated in the North Nashville community. That's been my everyday for 12 years. So it's like, I don't know how to register that it's not there anymore. Yeah. So we're just trying to figure it out. We're just trying to figure out, what's our next steps. I really don't want to make any hasty moves. I'm just trying to, digest it all and just trying to figure it out. So, the community has rallied around us, wanting to give us other options, other building options, things of that nature. So we just, it's a lot going on right now. So we're just trying to take our time and just make the right decision.
I know, trying to put it all together. It's something that happens unexpectedly. And, we're faced in life each and every day with positive and negative situations. But in that bad situation, you said something very key. The community is gathering around you to show you support and to show you help, which means they're showing you some love to help you get back on your feet again. People who are not familiar with Nashville, especially the North Nashville part of the city, it's predominantly African American. Yes. A lot of people thriving to make their businesses work. You had several businesses operating there. How have they been affected now?
So this is my livelihood, this is how I fed my family. My wife worked with me to help build the businesses. And so it's everything is gone, so just trying to figure out that is just been, it's been a whirlwind. And then North Nashville, if you know anything about Nashville and what's going on, Nashville is rapidly gentrifying. It's been
Yeah.
gentrifying for the last 6 or 7 years, but North Nashville has been the last frontier. Like every area has gentrified except, certain areas of North Nashville have, but the middle portion of North Nashville was like the last piece. And it was like the
Yeah.
tornado almost like either is going to accelerate it or it's going to ban the community around preserving the legacy of North Nashville and keeping the residents there and allowing the residents to rebuild new homes. That's what we hope. But it's unreal right now.
Well, look, you've unpacked a lot with that, and particularly with regard to African Americans being able to rebuild that area and not be gentrified, but to actually grow and have some progress and some upward mobility. Before I let you go, you also extend a lot of help to people with mental illness in that area. You even provide a place for them to stay. Tell me about that before we let you go.
Okay, yeah. So we have a nonprofit organization called the Fortitude Group, and what we do is house guys that have mental illness. So most of the guys don't have families, so we're their only family, and we provide housing for them, food, meal management, medication management, things of that nature. So the neighborhood was, I mean, devastated where the houses were, but it's like God just put a hedge of protection around those guys, and both houses, they're on the same street, and both houses were not touched.
Wow.
Like the roofs were like the shingles were everywhere, but in regards to like complete damage, everything around it was completely damaged, and those houses were intact. So
That's amazing. That's incredible, and obviously the work that you're doing for the mentally ill is so important. It is an important topic in the African American community and throughout the United States at large. So I want to thank you for continuing on with that work in spite of the tragic or devastating consequences of that tornado touching down in Nashville, causing death, as well as causing massive destruction throughout the area. Josh Mundy, our prayers are with you, and we're in full support of you. If there's any way the Kelly Wright Show can help you in doing more than just getting your information out, we'll be at the ready. So thanks again, Josh Mundy, for joining us from Nashville.
thank you so very much for having me, man.
All right.
God bless.
We're praying for you, friend. God bless you. Back with more of the Kelly Wright Show after this. Welcome back. The path to college can be a very difficult one. Black students are more likely to borrow money for school, which means they owe more when they're finished. Victoria Jackson is the Senior Policy Analyst for Higher Education at the Education Trust, and she joins us now to weigh in on this weighty issue of borrowing. They talk about how you bet the farm. A lot of times we bet our life savings on getting a student through college, especially black students. How can we maneuver through this?
Yeah, so there is definitely a crisis for black student borrowers, and our situation is unique. As you mentioned, we're more likely to borrow, we borrow more, and when we get to repayment, we're more likely to struggle. And so when you think of student debt repayment, there's sort of two general experiences. There's one when a person completes a bachelor's degree, they're financially healthy, they're able to make their monthly payments, maybe they even pay a little bit more per month. And then there's this other experience. It's the one where you're making the decision between paying for food every month and paying for your student loans or making that rent payment. It's the experience of being late. And then there's the worst outcome of student debt, which is default, where you haven't made a payment for more than 9 months. That can ruin your credit, harm your ability to get a job, rent an apartment, or get a mortgage. Black students are much more likely to experience that latter situation.
So rather than becoming a stepping stone and an opportunity zone for an individual life to move forward and achieve their dreams, with that college education, it's almost like a weight around them because of the debt burden that they share. How can we avoid that altogether? What do we need to do to change the system on a collegiate level to make it more available to African Americans without causing debt?
Yeah, and I just want to make it clear that this isn't about individual failings among Black people. So even when we look at, high income Black students, so Black students who go to college right out of high school, who come from high income families, they're having default rates that are higher than low income their white peers. They're having default rates that are 7 times higher than their high income white peers. And so what we know is that we have to have policies in place that make access and affordability at the forefront. So what we need to do is we need to start reinvesting in public colleges and universities at the state level. Over several decades, states have reduced funding for public colleges and universities, which means tuition costs have increased, and that's hit Black families the hardest. The Pell Grant, which is the nation's most important need-based financial aid, has lost purchasing power over the past several decades. 40 years ago, it covered half the cost of college of a public four-year university, and now it only covers 28%. And then we need to think about the people who have debt today and how can we help them. So we need to think about, maybe large-scale, targeted, equitable debt forgiveness that's targeted by income and wealth.
Victoria, all those things you're talking about really would cause someone to think it's going to cost too much. I don't want to go to college because it's going to burden my family. Should we, in addition to changing policy, also address what's happening at those institutions, saying you've got to hold the cost at a certain amount and you've got to allow students to come in? Why are we educating our kids and it's costing them a mortgage to do that?
And I think it really gets back to the disinvestment at the state level. Really all the research points to. When we go back and we think about that time when people were able to work the summer job and pay their way through school, that's when states looked and the federal government looked at higher education as a public good, and they said it should be affordable for all people. And they've really rolled back on that commitment to students and families. And so we need to get back to that. And then we also know that Black people are also facing other structural issues, issues of racism. I mentioned we need to target debt forgiveness by income and wealth. We know there's a racial gap in wages, but there's also a racial wealth gap. And that's the result of centuries of racist policy, everything from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining that prevented Black families from building wealth through home ownership. All of this makes Black families and Black students more likely to borrow to go to college, and also makes it harder for them to repay their debt.
But it should also make us more determined to accomplish our goal of getting an education. That's sound, it's fundamental, and that paves the way for us to ultimately get out of this debt, to get out of this poverty, and actually keep moving our people forward, right?
Yes, I think our history shows that we're dedicated to education. We fought always for inclusion and greater access for our people in education.
But we have to right those wrongs as well.
Exactly, so we have to right those wrongs, and we also have to keep fighting, and we need public policy to make the way and stop putting barriers for our people so we can get the same outcomes and we can have the same return on investment as our white peers have.
That's what we're really all about, making sure the outcomes are equitable.
Exactly.
And have parity. Victoria Jackson, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, back with more after this. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show, where we care about you, and we thank you for staying with us throughout this hour. I want to introduce a friend of ours. It's Barbara Perkins. She has written a book called Restoration, and the restoration is about 7 promises of God. This is hot off the press. She just gave it to me, but she isn't here to talk about restoration. We could squeeze that in, but she's also here to talk about the International Black Women's Public Policy Institute, which is having its summit here in the D.C. area. And let's talk about the Institute itself.
Sure.
And why it's so important for Black women to have this kind of organization.
Yeah. So thank you, Kelly, for having me on your show.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure to see you again and to be with you. The International Black Women's Public Policy Institute is 11 years old now. And I'm pleased to say that we are an organization that is intergenerational. There are 20 women on the board from around the country as well as internationally. We represent on our board from Cuba, Belize, the Bahamas, Ghana, Kumasi, Ghana, and Accra, Ghana, and 11 major cities around the U.S.
And you're growing.
And we are growing.
Now, what's the vision and the mission?
So we are a policy organization founded by Black women. We're the only policy organization founded by Black women, for Black women, and operated by Black women. And our vision is to either create new policies that addresses the concerns of Black women or support those policies that are already on the books.
So Barbara, let's talk about that, because what are the concerns of Black women? As you know, we're in the height of a 2020 presidential campaign.
Yes.
And we're hearing from Republicans and Democrats how valuable the Black vote is.
Yes.
And as you drill down on that, probably the most important subset, and we shouldn't say subset because it's really in the forefront, African American women.
That's right.
As you vote, the rest of the country seems to go towards that vote.
So one of the things I'm really proud about is we are a nonpartisan organization, first of all. Our concerns are not political concerns, even though I feel personally everything is political, right? But we have 4 major areas that we focus on. One is the health and wellness of Black women, wherever we are.
So now we're talking about health care.
Health and wellness.
Okay.
That includes health care. It also includes emotional health, spiritual health. I mean, this is across the board. And I'll come back and talk specifically about one of the things we're working on.
Okay.
Education is important. Access to quality, basic education. So no matter where you are in the globe, basic education for Black women and girls is important. Our economic security. How do we live? How do we take care of our families? How do we sustain quality lifestyles for each other? Very important. And then the program and the pillar that I am most proud of is we started talking about human trafficking and sex trafficking of our girls 10 years ago. Even before I personally knew a whole lot about it, I always thought that this was a problem far away from us.
Yeah.
Only to find out this is a problem in cities around the U.S., right across the street from churches.
Exactly.
Right, in neighborhoods that sometimes we don't even imagine this problem exists.
Well, see, now you've hit on a very important aspect of this, because when we launched our show, the first show was dedicated to 64,000 missing Black girls and women. Part of that is human trafficking.
Yes.
And so to that end, what does this particular Public Policy Institute do in helping the world at large and Congress understand the plight of our missing Black girls and human trafficking of women of color?
Yeah. The first and most important thing that we started looking at was the awareness of it. Because if we don't know that it exists, if we think it's something far away from us, then of course it's easy to put it out of our minds. But when it touches home, when every little girl, or boy for that matter, who is emancipated from foster care at 17 and a half years old, right, is at great risk for being trafficked, because what else will they do? How do they take care of themselves at 17 or 18 years old? I have a 30-year-old who's still working it out, right?
Yeah.
So awareness was really important. And then acceptance from those organizations in our communities, like churches and after-school programs, that would say we have a responsibility to make sure our children are safe, not from some unknown scary thing, but from predators who are in our communities as a part of our communities. So the first thing we did was we went on this awareness tour. And we started saying, let's have the conversation within our churches. Let's change the language, how we refer to girls who we see on the street. They're not prostitutes, they're victims. And how do we begin to see them and humanize them again? So that was that was 5 years of our work, just going around the country talking
Barbara, do me a
about it.
favor, because we have so much to talk about. Come back on the show, because we need to keep this out in front of people, not just the fact that we're seeing black girls go missing and also becoming victims, but I also like the fact that the Institute is also intergenerational, helping our young girls become victors.
Yes.
Through education and through health and wellness, the whole person, mind, body, and soul. And before I let you go, I want to just promote this book one more time. It's called Restoration, and thanks for giving it to me as a gift. I can't wait to read it. 7 Promises of God. I'll take all of the promises from God that I can get. And how you have, I was broken, but look at you now. Look at all of us
so
now.
much.
And thanks for what you're doing for black women.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and I'd love to come back and talk more about what we're doing.
Well, on the Kelly Wright Show, we believe that black girls rock.
We do.
All right.
Thank you. God bless you.
She is Barbara
Thank
Perkins.
you.
We're back with more The Kelly Wright Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. There are more millennials in the country now than baby boomers, and a lot of millennials have an entrepreneurial spirit. Franklin Chavis is our special guest and is here to talk more about this. Franklin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What is Black Millennial Voices?
Black Millennial Voices is a platform for global, it's a global platform where I'm highlighting black millennials who are shifting the culture in their own space. You know, a lot of times black millennials specifically get overlooked in media. There's a lot of people who are doing their thing in their own respected lane. For every piece of negative black media that you show me, I can show you 10 pieces of black positive media. And sometimes, you know, it's just overlooked. So I'm at the forefront. I'm trying to shed light on those people who are overlooked and their stories.
I love the fact that you're doing that. It's a very positive initiative. What got you inspired to take on this role?
My father inspired me, but also I'm tired of seeing negative black stuff in the media. You know, every time you turn on the news, it's 80% negative when it's concerning black millennials. And there's a lot of people that I know personally who are just overlooked. A lot of positive. They're black, they're millennials, people of color all over the world.
We should mention that your father is Dr. Benjamin Chavis,
yes.
who's also a good friend of the Kelly Wright Show. And but more importantly, it's like the son is learning from the father, but then the son is also dispersing to his generation, black millennials, the importance of who we are and where we're going. And I like the fact that you're addressing those negative stereotypes with a positive, proactive approach. Now, you were mentioning that for every negative story, you can give me 8 to 10 positive stories. Give me some of those millennials who are out there doing some positive things that we don't know about.
Sure. A good friend of mine, Tavir Johnson, we grew up together in Parkland, South Florida. He's a self-made multimillionaire. I hate to put his business out there, but you know, he's a self-made multimillionaire. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, and he's a philanthropist. He's building a school in Jamaica.
Wow.
And he's overlooked. You know, the press doesn't cover these type of stories. And if there's one Tavir Johnson out there, I know there's 10 more. I know one, but I know there's 10 more and they're overlooked. And I'd like to see more of that stuff in the media, not so much negative stuff.
This entrepreneurial spirit that we see with the millennials, I'm thinking of my own sons in particular as well, and you, of course, kind of like a son to me through vicariously. What I see is this passion and yet this coolness, this swagger, and this confidence that I can do all things through God and through faith and my abilities to do that, my God-given talents, and your gifts make room for you. So as you move forward, what are some of the things you're hoping to accomplish with this millennial project?
So what I'm looking to accomplish with this millennial project is to highlight and just shed light on as much positive black stories as I can. Right now we're on Instagram. I have a website. I'm still in the concept phase, but I would like to maybe take this to a network for my own show. I'd like to see more of these stories in the media. You know, when you turn on the TV, we're just overlooked. I have 10 people like Tavir that, you know, they could just have some type of recognition for the work that they're doing in the community.
To be recognized, because if we're recognizing what you're doing and we're putting your cause out there, it causes others who see what you're doing. They're saying, wait a minute, Frank, he's my age, he's motivating me, he's inspiring me, and that's what we all need to do intergenerationally.
Yes, exactly. It just crossed my mind. PJ Kelvin, he's from Philadelphia. He does a lot of private jet bookings. He's in the jet business, and he's overlooked as well. He's booking jets for every celebrity that you could think of, and he's overlooked. Nobody really knows who he is.
How old is he?
He's about 23, 24.
Wow.
He's a millennial.
Wow.
He's a millennial, and I'd like to see him in the media. I'd like to see his name blown up more. He's in a lane where he's the only African American, I like to say. Not the only, but, you know, not that many in the private jet sector, industry. And he's a great guy, full of energy. I like to see him in the media more, and he needs to be acknowledged for what he's doing, because he's motivating other people to get into that industry where you don't see too many black millennials.
Well, you know what? In the past 5 minutes we've just talked, you've motivated a lot of millennials who are watching this show, and they're saying, I want to get in touch with you. So we can get in touch with you on Instagram, and also, what's the other
I have
site?
a website, Black Millennial Voices is the website. You can see the trailer that I'm working on. I'm big on Instagram, and on Twitter, it's Black M Voices.
Okay. Franklin Chavis, thanks, man. Let's start a revolution out there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Positive brothers.
Yes, sir.
And sisters. He's a millennial. I'm not, but I feel like I'm one in spirit. Anyway, we'll be back with more of the Kelly Wright Show after this. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. I'm being a little rude here, but I'm listening to the music of Such, and it's awesome. And she is my guest today on the Kelly Wright Show. We're going to talk about her music, and let me look at you. She is amazing. She's an R&B singer who has appeared on American Idol, and we welcome her to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was listening to your music, and I started ad-libbing with it.
I know, that's right.
But that was your song Before Dark, and we'll be hearing from you musically. But let's talk about you as the artist that you are.
Yeah.
Tell me who Such is.
Such is a former nurse. Up until January of 2012, I was actually a nurse. I'm Haitian American, so my parents immigrated from Haiti. I'm the daughter of a pastor, so I grew up in, singing in the church. And I currently live in Denver, Colorado, and I also act, and I'm just glad to be here.
How does your life influence your music?
Oh my gosh, so much. I'm what I like to call an ear hustler. So I totally listen to people's conversations.
An ear hustler?
I be hustling on those combos, okay? Where I feel like everything influences me. I have a 9-year-old son, conversations that I've had with him. I've written songs about him. I've written songs about, relationships and experiences. And so I say everything.
And so what's the richness of music that comes from the wonderful woman named Such? Based on your experiences?
Yeah, it's definitely my experiences, and I feel like it's just one of those things. I feel like everybody's been given a gift and a way to give back to the world, and music is mine.
And who's influenced you musically?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Of course, Aretha, big time. Of course.
Yeah.
I love Jill Scott.
Yeah.
I love Sade.
Okay.
And when I tell you I love
You're mentioning
Sade.
some of my favorites.
Of course, Stevie. I would say more modern day Fantasia. I'm a huge Fantasia fan. But so many people. Maxwell. I love neo soul. I'm a huge neo soul person.
Now, you're on tour now?
Yes, I am.
And where's the tour taking you?
Oh, it's been so awesome. So I actually got to perform with Robert Glasper, which was incredible.
Stop.
Yes, he's great. He's amazing. He is so amazing.
You did not go there.
I sure did. And he's great. I've also opened up for PJ Morton in London, Manchester, and Birmingham. That was incredible.
Fantastic.
I opened up for Shaka Khan, Michael McDonald, and I've been here, DC.
Yeah.
I live in Denver, but I've also done New York, Boston, and yeah, it's been really
was this because of your appearance on American Idol and you were able to catapult that into going nationwide, or was there a lot more going on?
Well, I was on American Idol 7-8 years ago, so I feel like, you know, it was American Idol that initially started my journey, in the sense that I just knew after American Idol that I had to phase out nursing and up music. So I think American Idol was very instrumental in me just realizing that this is what I knew I was always called to do, but was too scared to do it.
So you were doing it as an avocation, and then it became your vocation.
And then it
after
became
that.
yes, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. You see so this is the new album, right? Let me put it out here in front of the camera crew. That's actually in front of your shot, but they'll take a shot of that. And it's called, I like the name of it. It says, Wide Nose, Full Lips.
That's
Tell
right.
me the meaning of that.
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was a kid, I had a family member that used to make fun of my nose, and she'd tell me that my nose was too wide, that I needed to pinch it and make it more Eurocentric, because that was the standard of beauty. And so this album, if I could sort of summarize it, I would say that it's a love letter to myself and a love letter to Blackness. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to be who I am, and I want to encourage other people to embrace who they are. The wide nose and the full lips.
And so some of the songs, the wide nose and the full lips, so some of the songs you have on here, All I Want, what's that about?
Oh, All I Want is a love love song.
Love song.
Yeah, it's real sexy. Okay. Listen, no joke.
All
There's Before Dark is on there. That's about a long distance relationship, and how you know, a lot of times there are songs about what happens after dark.
Yeah.
This is about what happens before dark.
Before the dark.
That's right.
See what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So you stay away from it. We're gonna come back with more of such right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and now my final word. You know, throughout this program, we've talked about the coronavirus, and we hope we've made you aware of the fact that all of us have to come together, regardless of race, creed, or color, to actually fight this virus. And then we talked about the rise of our young, gifted, and black millennials. Let's not stand in their way. Let's open up the door. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door. I can get it myself, as James Brown used to say. And then there's black women and the greatness of what they do, not only for us as a people, but for the world. I've said it here often, Black Girls Rock. And we're going to hear from such in just a moment, but my friend Leon Patillo said, how do you look upon yourself? Are you always looking down on the ground? How do you look upon yourself? Are you always looking behind, way behind? The possibility is here. We can all be a pioneer. We just can't be afraid of the new frontier. So hopefully you've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading some love, freedom, and peace. So peace out to each and every one of you as we leave you with such. Such, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And she closes now with this wonderful song. The name of the song is?
Before Dark.
Before Dark. Peace out, everybody.
It'll be a while before your skin touches mine. Before dark, pull me close against your chest. Can you feel my body saying yes? Before dark, can you whisper softly in my ear? Say things only you and I should